First of all, I probably need to say that while I'm going to explain why Agile didn't solve the problems in your company, I am not opposed to Agile. I hope that will become very clear. I think Agile systems work very well. We'll get there. What has happened is that for many years, we've found that software development organizations are failing to meet the expectations. They're missing deadlines. They're not delivering the quality that was expected. They are not respecting their budget and so on. And then along came methodologies that were called Agile. And these methodologies said, with this, we're moving in little steps, so we always meet our objectives, our budgets, our deadlines. We can manage all of that. We can manage change in an easy way. And so they implemented this and found that afterwards they were missing their deadlines, going over budget, and not delivering the quality that was expected. So what happened? Why did this go so terribly wrong? I would like to talk, I'm going to give some background information as to why Agile came to be. I want to talk about teams, I want to talk about chaos and complexity, and I want to talk about lean and waste management, because those are the building blocks of Agile. Then get to Agile itself and my conclusion. So let's start with some history. Background information. Projects or companies have got a combination of portfolios, programs, and projects that are using a limited set of resources and are dealing with a limited set of stakeholders. The same stakeholders and resources need to be working on several projects at the same time. So therefore, we need to keep the balance correct between these different components so that they will be available when they are needed. I cannot start project number 5 if my key engineers are still busy on project number 2. In order to help manage this, there was necessity to create intermediate objectives. Those are the building blocks of a life cycle. It's to help you understand what you need to be working on, what are the main priorities that need to be considered, make sure that everything is there and we've got clear understanding as to what we mean when we say something is completed. And that led to the creation of life cycles in order to make sure that I get what I need at the right time. I need to manage this. I need to get the resources I want at the time I need them. I need to know that the other teams will have finished the work that I need to consume in order to do my phase. The idea of life cycles is to try to balance the short term and the long term. And basically, within the industry, we came up with 2 types of life cycles: predictive life cycles and incremental life cycles. Predictive life cycle means that right up front, we have all the requirements. We've got the architecture, the design finished. We've got the estimates made out. We know when everything is going to be ready. Typical predictive life cycles are waterfall and all its variations. Incremental life cycles are life cycles that are based on the concept that I'm going to create part of my product, get it approved, build the next part, and so on. So every deliverable gets some kind of recognition. Predictive life cycles do not mean that you cannot work in parallel. So in this version of the waterfall life cycle, we have got the system and software requirements that are set up at front. The system design is established at the beginning, but then we've got several teams doing development in parallel and leading up to the system test and the delivery of the final product at the end. An incremental life cycle is based on a spiral model. So the idea is that we are building up on top of this, and we are going to have a number of clear sessions where we'll have communication with the customer, planning of what we need to do, risk analysis, the engineering activities, installation, delivery, support, whatever you want to call it, customer evaluation, communication, and we go back around. This model that I'm using here is not something new. It was called the multi-entry evolutionary model. And the idea was that every time you go around the circle, you are building up. And you will notice that most of the model is far removed from the engineering aspect. This is a management tool. It's not an engineering tool, just like every other life cycle. The engineering activities on any particular project or sub-project are dependent on a risk analysis and an important decision to continue the project or to stop. This is something which unfortunately we have missed out recently. There comes a time when you have spent too much money on a project and you need to decide to stop throwing good money after bad money. That accept the fact that your project is a failure, stop, throw it away, start something new. The spiral model is basically the foundation for the traditional Agile Scrum approach, in which we establish early on who are the stakeholders, what needs to be done. We break it down into different components. We cycle, we build on this, and we form a product review and a retrospective in order to learn to improve. Both predictive and iterative life cycles have got problems. So predictive life cycle has got advantages. It's got simple milestones. Everything's been decided right at the beginning. We know how we're going to test, where we're going to test. We've got acceptance criteria defined before the project even starts. It's easy to understand. We know where we are, and everything is in order. Disadvantage, of course, is that it's only when it's finished that it can be used. It's only when it's finished that it's finished. And the predictiveness of it gives the illusion of predictability. You get the feeling that everything is going to work out exactly as it is. And you've got difficulty to scale the phases. One of the traditional issues that we have in predictive projects is that the requirements phase has lasted 25% longer than expected. The design phase has lasted 25% longer than expected. And yet we continue to trust our deadlines, thinking that we will catch up in the next phase. Obviously, that is not the case. We're going to go overboard on every one of the phases. The incremental life cycles have a slightly opposite set of advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, of course, is that we do plan it up front, but we partition risks within components, within phases. This does not work for everything. It does not work for any project. It does not work in all environments. It's a lot more complex to plan, to set up, to organize, to control. The idea of an incremental delivery is that we have a planned trade-off. We manage as we go along to avoid mad descoping at the end of the project. We manage contingencies. We prioritize things. We can update requirements and ways of working. As we go along, we can make things happen. It reduces a number of risks. There's definitely something about late delivery, budget overruns, and general customer or stakeholder satisfaction, because we are continuously running through this validation process and making sure that we are delivering something that will satisfy our client. In order to do this, we need to understand that the overheads are higher. It's expensive to do this. It can be difficult to obtain funding for a continuous set of succession and changes because your changes are rarely acknowledged by customers as being changes. It is, you misunderstood what I asked for. It is your problem. The change process can become a code and fix. So just write and fix it in the next sprint and everything will go well. And then, of course, they have got a nasty habit of going on forever. So there is no clear ending to an incremental project, and you just keep on changing and adding things for as long as the product is alive. If you want to do predict incremental deliveries, you need to have a good understanding of the architecture and how the architecture allows this to happen. You have to have a clear understanding of the priority of requirements from a technical point of view, from a user's point of view, from a customer point of view. You have to identify how to build in the dependencies between different bits that will be developed at different times. And you've got to understand how to allocate requirements, budgets, and so on. The Agile concept, and particularly in the Scrum concept, has an added disadvantage, is that it is largely focused on the team. It is not focused on the product. It is not focused on the business. It is focused on how well the team is managing themselves, how they are monitoring what they are doing, how they are making sure that they, in their team, are being productive. Which is why the next section I want to talk about is how to manage teams and what this means. First of all, I need to differentiate managers from leaders. Too often, these two terms are being confused. People are talking about leaders when they say managers, or talking about managers. Very rarely do people say managers instead of leaders somehow. But a manager is basically focused on the current situation and what is happening, and the leader is focused on the vision and wants to get there. If you want to lead a team successfully, you need to decide, you need to implement some form of leadership. There are various ways of leading teams. It goes on this slide from S1, which was very much the authoritarian, centralized management aspect. I tell you what to do, you do it, I accept it. Down to S4, which is very hands-off. I trust you. I just need to confirm it has happened, that it's been done. You have the power to do it. I can challenge you to make sure you achieve your results. Compare this to the different types of teams. There's an old expression that teams form, storm, norm, and perform. So form is where you have a new team, where people are wondering why they are there, what is the team for, why have I been included, who are you, how do we work together. The storm is when we start challenging one another. I think you're wrong. This isn't the way we should do it. And the team spends a lot of time arguing instead of working. It then moves to the norm phase, which is normal, which is the way you would expect it. And if the team lasts long enough, into a high performance team. You need to judge your leadership style based on how the team is working. You've got to adapt the way you lead, the way you manage to the problems of the team concerned. In other words, a formed team needs to have a lot more control, teaching, checking. A high maturity team, high performance team, just allow them to do it. Give them what they need and make it a success. Leadership needs to understand this. Leadership needs to understand this because from a leadership point of view, you need to understand the business and technical functions, the qualitative and functional aspects of the product or service you're trying to build. You need to work on coordinating, collaborating, influencing, and getting people to understand what is the shared vision. The shared vision is not management's vision. It is a vision that is shared throughout the team. The team is composed of a variety of people selected on their knowledge and their skills and their ability to work as a team. They are selected based on what they bring to the team rather than just the fact that they happen to be available and have nothing else to do when you want to start the project. Leaders have to learn. Leadership is based on experience. You can learn to, you can become a manager through books and studies. You have to become a leader through experience and mistakes. You have to learn to acknowledge your mistakes, your failures, and learn from them. This is critical because if you do have a skilled team and you are being very directive and centralized and authoritative, you will demotivate them. We are naturally wanting to control our life, our choices, our reactions. You need as much as possible to give the people in the team the ability to do what is necessary and what they know they should be doing. Depending again on the team, that is more or less. Chaos and complexity are important things because it's never really as simple as we think. I can give you very simple examples on how to do things, and I guarantee they won't work because they will be simplistic. Complex means it cannot easily be understood by people of average intelligence. Simple means it can be easily understood by people of average intelligence. We like simple solutions. The problem is we are tempted to apply simplistic solutions to complex problems. We think we've got a problem, we will apply the solution we used previously to a simple problem because that worked. It's too simple, and it very often turns your complex problem into something that's more chaotic. Various components determine how complex something is. I've taken two here, which are requirements and technology. If they're both simple, you've got a simple project. If one or the other is more complicated, you get a complicated project. Simple means there's a very clear cause and effect. Complicated means there's a series of causes that are interrelated and that work together, but that we manage. Complex typically means we don't understand the causes. We are working backwards from them in order to retroactively look at why things went wrong. And chaotic, we can't even do that. Chaotic, shit happens, things go wrong, you got to live with it. If you are going to work efficiently, effectively, you need to start by understanding where you are. You need to start by understanding what is the correct solution. I've put here the little graphic of the Kinefin model. Um, I'm not going to go into that now, but it's basically if you want to move from obvious down the bottom right-hand corner, you go to complicated, complex, and chaotic. You want to be business-wise somewhere between complex and complicated. Chaotic, you're going to be in trouble. Obvious, those are your best practices, which means your old practices that no longer work. If you put in place a simple and obvious solution to a complicated or a complex problem, you will fall into a chaotic solution. You need to think about it. We have for a long time been promoting system thinking. And system thinking means understanding how all the components fit together. What do I need to do in order to achieve my final objective? How can I make this happen at the end? It often fails because it's too far, it's too idealistic. And so we prefer to start working in complex thinking. Complex thinking means we know the general direction and we are going to establish stopping points where we can check, correct, and keep moving. It's much more likely to achieve its objectives. In addition to complexity thinking, I would very strongly recommend you listen to the cynics, because the cynics challenge you, tell you what's wrong, bring your attention, bring risks and issues to your attention. Now, honestly, today, most software being developed is complex, because even if you're trying to deliver or develop a relatively simple product, between interconnectivity, cloud technology, and so on, it has to fit into an ever-expanding environment, which makes it more and more complex. Most software development organizations, unfortunately, are chaotic. They try to fit old solutions to new problems and make things worse. We need to try to move back from that and come to complexity thinking, which allows us to try, verify, validate, and progress. Now that sounds like we should be doing Agile, Scrum, and so on. Before I get into the Agile aspect, I need to talk about lean management. This is the foundation of effective performance. The idea behind lean is systematically minimize waste without sacrificing productivity. What we mean, the three key aspects that we are looking at eliminating, it's the useless stuff we create, trying to do too much, and workload bottlenecks. Now, I'm sure that anybody working in the software industry or in most other industries has experience of these three components. We create bits that then get thrown away, that never come to good use. We try to do too much. We accept too much, too many jobs, try and do too much within one sprint. We don't have a clear understanding of how long things will take and how much we've already accepted. And thereby we create bottlenecks where even though the previous people have finished their job, the work comes to a standstill while waiting for the next team, person, or task to be able to get started. The idea behind lean is to continuously think and consider how we can make things more effective. This goes throughout the organization. Everybody within a lean organization is considering how to improve the system. Provide advice and coaching. every job within a lean organization is highly specified. What is its content? In what sequence? How much time do you have? What are you trying to produce? Every task is specified. Every customer-supplier connection is direct. In other words, software developers are speaking to clients and users directly. There's an unambiguous yes or no for requests that are sent, and everything is being reviewed according to scientific method. In other words, it is a hypothesis until you've proven that it works. Then it becomes a theory until you prove that it does not work. The guidance of a teacher is there to help the people at the lowest level of the organization implement what is important. So what does lean mean in practice? It is, first of all, understand the value stream. What are the different activities that need to be done in order to produce a product or service with as little overlap as possible? The traditional approach when talking about value stream is we identify the needs, which is already something we tend to forget. We base our work on requirements instead of the needs. That's another discussion. We then start building components one on the other until at the end we can inspect things and decide to rework, scrap, or ship the product. The idea behind Agile is to try to reduce this. So there is some kind of loop, but the needs are being used progressively throughout it so that we don't have the rework and scrap at the end. However, we do have the returns that are frequently there, and those returns are a major failing point, because the reality of trying to manage those simple returns very often means that we need to put in place full inspection and testing at every step of the way, which actually ends up making the whole process longer. So one of the first things you need to do, whether you want Agile or not, is understand what is your value stream. So over a period of time, how much time are you spending doing different activities, and how much time is lost? The red bars here is lost time between activities. Typical loss of time is work that isn't completed, extra processes, adding features that were not asked for that, time wasted as you switch from one thing to another, waiting for someone, for information, for a response, for a client, the time spent moving things around, and of course defects waste a lot of time. The people doing the work should be telling you how to improve it and make it more successful. They understand the current steps, they understand the way it should be done, they understand how it should go. Listening to the people doing the work rather than telling them how to do their job, you have lost the game. You hire people because you believe they know how to do their job. Let them do it. Give them the means. This is not something new. This is not something new. In fact, I can trace this all the way back to Taylor, the creator of scientific management, who very much focused on getting people to be as productive as possible. It says whenever a workman, so the person at the bottom of the chain, proposes an improvement, management has to do a careful analysis. That analysis is recommended in Toyota when they developed lean manufacturing. It is recommended all the way through. It is recommended in Agile when you do your retrospectives and identify how to improve something from the product, from the way of working, from the results. Once it has been defined that a new method is better, it needs to be adopted as the standard across the whole thing. This is 1911. Frederick Taylor, who was usually getting a very bad rap in all these management books today. The objective of the whole process of everything we have said so far is that people make mistakes. I cannot stop you from making mistakes. As someone said, people who don't make mistakes never do anything. You want to identify those mistakes before they become defects. The purpose of your improvement, the purpose of what Taylor just recommended, the purpose of lean, of agile, and most other methodologies is to try to bring the identification of the mistake as close as possible to its origin so as to reduce its impact and stop it from reaching the end user as part of the final product. And that all brings us down to Agile itself and what it means. Going back to the basics, Agile Manifesto. Agile Manifesto recommends that we spend more focus and put more value on individuals and interaction, on developing working products, on building customer collaboration and responding to change. That's usually what people are looking for and missing out the concept that the items on the right are important. That means that if you want to do agile development, you need process, you need comprehensive documentation, you need contract negotiation, you need a plan. This cannot just be ignored. Agile is not the synonym of not writing anything down. The documentation is still critical. That's the founding, the 4 points. In addition to that, there were 12 Agile principles that were defined. Highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery. So we want to give quick responses, and we want to give regular responses by giving them the product they want, which is growing and which is they are learning from. They are telling you if it is wrong, if there's a problem in it. They are also identifying things they may have missed in their original requirements, producing change requests which you are going to build in without complaining in order to give them a competitive advantage. You want to deliver working products regularly, frequently. The faster or the more regularly you can develop things, deliver valuable products, the better it is according to Agile. Business people and developers work together. So your developers are speaking to your clients, to your users, to your management in order to make sure that they understand what is being expected. They are meeting daily. Your clients, your end user participates in your daily meetings. Projects are built around motivated individuals. You need to give them the environment they need and the support they need. Working environment is something that has been largely ignored over the past years. Open plan offices are destructive, are against productivity. Suddenly having everybody working from home has created all kinds of problems. You need to provide the environment they need to do it and to demonstrate the trust. Face-to-face conversation. In other words, we are progressing not through emails, not through updates that are sent for review and might or might not. We want to talk to people. Ideally, we want to see people. Measurement of progress is the software product is working. That is what is the most important aspect. If the software product is not working, we've missed out on something. Sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. There are no crash endings where suddenly we have to overwork and work at all hours in order to deliver. If you've done that, you haven't understood Agile. It is something that is regular, it becomes routine, it may even become boring chain work. Continuous attention to technical excellence. The fact that you're trying to deliver something every 2 weeks does not mean you reduce the technical excellence. You have to build it up. You have to focus on making good products that will work from the start. Keep it simple. This is a fundamental aspect of Agile, is how little work can you do in order to deliver what is expected. And self-organizing teams do what you need to do. Make your own decisions as a team. You know where the problems are. You know how to solve it. And as we said in a previous principle, management trusts you to do the right thing. Tunes and adjusts its behavior working accordingly. So most projects have got a phase called retrospective and lessons learned. And very often does this lead to practical improvement. It leads to spending an hour together complaining about everything that went wrong and blaming other people. Understanding these principles is a foundation of Agile. They're good, they make sense, they work together. I do want to challenge one bit here. They use the word continuous, and they should have used the word continual. Continuous is something that stops, starts, stops, starts, and keeps on going. Continuous is without interruption or cessation. So, contrary to what Agile says, I will challenge that you probably don't want continuous delivery of new releases. I did work for a company where one of the main customers was getting 5 or 6 new releases per day to test and implement. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to have continual delivery, not continuous. When I talk to people about Agile, when I ask people about Agile, mostly I hear these same terms coming up. Sooner or later, someone is going to reference one of these items and say, well, Agile is the implementation. This is not Agile. Agile is first and foremost values and principles, which you have understood and bought into individually and as a team and as a company. It is a culture and a commitment to continuous communication at every level of the project and the organization. It is a desire to validate rapidly that we have understood the client's needs. It is an ongoing and predictable delivery of value. I would rather that you always remember the objective is to deliver value and not actually working software. Working software is the means to deliver value. The teams discipline themselves and are empowered to organize themselves and to control themselves. This does not mean you don't have team leaders and project managers. You still need them. The team leader is there to motivate people, to make sure that they understand and keep their eye on the end result. The manager is there to manage the whole development process from original concept to final delivery. The project manager does not necessarily manage the people in the team. The project manager manages the project. Continuous improvement. We want to do better every time. All this comes down to one simple sentence. The practice or tool you are using is less important than the reason why you are using it. That is what you need to consider. One of the issues with Agile for me is the fact that they have come up with Agile Ceremonies. And the word itself is destructive. Ceremonies are formal acts, rituals, protocols, conventions. They are things that are done for various reasons in a semi-automated way. They are rites and rituals put on for a show, which might add an emotional value, but don't really do much else. If you don't know why you're doing it, you shouldn't do it. So, conclusion. I haven't been following the time. I hope I'm more or less on time. Agile is a set of values and principles. Agile is not prescriptive. The focus of Agile is to create maximum value with minimal output, and you are focusing on the outcomes, not just how many lines of code are coming out. So you want maximum value. Value is defined. What value are you getting out of this? How has it been defined? Product teams and real users communicate continuously, and there is an essential art of maximizing the work not done. Quote underneath here, imposing agile methods introduces a conflict with the values and principles that underlie agile methods. If you are an organization that advertises the idea that we are an agile organization, we do things, we do all our projects according, you've missed it. If as an organization you are doing all your projects according to agile methodology, you only have one type of project or you haven't understood it. You need to adapt the approach you are taking to the problem you are facing. How good are your developers? How much experience do they have? How well do you understand the technology? How well do you understand the client's business? How well does the client understand and express their own needs and concerns and requirements? Depending on that, you need to decide what is the approach that you want to take. Do you want to be directive, or do you want to go the other extreme and be completely agile, trusting, and self-organizing? So that's where I finish, more or less. If you have any questions, now's the time. So my job when I'm not talking at Code Camp is to define and implement processes, understand cultural biases and issues, improve management and leadership and teamwork by focusing on needed skill sets. Do we have questions?
Thank you, Peter. First of all, yes, we have questions. The first question would be, if you were to change one thing, the way Agile is or was perceived and implemented or adopted, or what would that be in your opinion?
One of my long time issues is we need to focus more on education and less on training. In other words, we need to educate people to understand why this is important and how to improve on it. Agile, let me give you the most stupid thing about Agile. Okay, the thing that really is unacceptable. You go for 2 days training, you pass a test that cannot be failed, and you are called a master.
It's an
Okay?
industry. It's an industry. We all know that.
It's an industry, and the idea of a scrum master in 2 days, that is complete, utter bullshit. That is a fraud. That is a waste of time. You
I
do
have a,
not become a master in 2 days, except maybe in certain unacceptable sexual practices that I shan't go into here.
I have a different definition of it. It's like a driver's license. You get it, but it doesn't make you a good driver.
Yes, and the driver's license is significantly more difficult than the Scrum Masters.
Yeah, you need to demonstrate some more understanding, I think. But yeah, I get your point.
So people are asking, what's a good agile coach in your opinion? Because there is this term of agile coach, there is this role in some companies.
I would actually like to get rid of the word agile and talk about a pragmatic project management coach. So understand what it is you're trying to achieve. Understand how critical it is, how skilled the people are, and decide together what is the right approach in order to do this. Work together, decide we're going to do this in different ways. We are going to start here with a strong waterfall for the first 3 months because I need to know that you understand what we're doing. And then as people get more skilled and motivated and understand how, why, when, who, then we can start giving them more and more freedom. Every single technology, every tool, every principle ultimately is wrong. You need to apply it when it's the right time to apply it.
In terms of, I don't know, projects that are not going well or people are not doing the things right, where do you think we stand? Are we still in the traditional ways and then the world change and trying to apply agile, or we're actually applying agile but in the wrong manner?
Yes, both. When a project is going wrong, the first thing you need to do is communication. Communication. In communication, the part of communication most people forget is that it's listening. Why did it go wrong? Who hasn't? I was working years ago on a project, and I was one of several team leaders working in parallel on different sections of the project. We told at the time the head of research and development that at the point we were, there was absolutely no way we were going to deliver according to the original plan, that we were going to be a minimum of 6 months late. The following week, the CEO of the company made an announcement in which he said, and I have been told by the head of R&D that everything is going to be delivered on time as originally scheduled. Okay? Finished. I don't trust management. I don't trust the head of R&D. They are saying what people want to hear. They are not communicating. They are not listening. If a project is going wrong, you need to communicate. You need to talk about it. Where did it go wrong? Why did it go wrong? What can we do in order? Maybe we do need to descope. Maybe we do need to go to a very strict old-fashioned waterfall. Maybe we need to give a lot more openness to the team to self-organize and decide themselves how to work.
Okay. And to give us some hope in closing, have you recently experienced, I don't know, maybe consultancy work or interactions with companies that did it well and are happy?
Yes, there are loads of companies. I'm talking here Romania. Okay, I have been working with Romanian companies that are working well, that have managed to get through the COVID crisis without too much damage, have understood that some of the clients can't afford their services but would like to continue, so they've come to arrangements with that. Have got methods, have got processes that are in place that allow people to deliver what is needed. You said, Florin, that this was we were closing, so I want to attract attention to this. That if anybody wants to continue the conversation after the Code Camp closes, you can join me on another Zoom. The number is on the screen right now. And if you're asked for a passcode, the passcode is CodeCamp. Or even easier, if you want to, you can scan this one.
Cool.
Okay, and I'll pick up another Zoom as soon as we finish here, if anybody wants to continue discussing.
That's excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Peter, and we're looking forward to meet again in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
I miss traveling. I miss seeing you guys. I miss seeing the people I'm talking to.